The late afternoon sun cast long, weary shadows across the savannah as Dr. Imani, a silhouette of focused intensity, peered through her high-powered binoculars from the camouflaged vantage of her observation post. Dust motes danced in the golden light, yet her gaze remained fixed on Zola, the pregnant lioness, whose expanding belly was a testament to new life just weeks away. Imani, a dedicated wildlife biologist, meticulously logged Zola's every languid movement, her scientific detachment a practiced shield against the raw beauty and brutality of this untamed world. Then, an anomaly. The soft hum of insects quieted. The rustle of dry grass ceased. A profound, unnatural stillness descended, swallowing the usual symphony of the wild. It was the kind of silence that precedes a storm or a scream. Imani's fingers tightened on the binoculars, a prickle of unease snaking up her spine. Without warning, the earth itself seemed to erupt. A colossal form, thick as a tree trunk, launched from the dry grasses with terrifying speed. The serpent, as the locals whispered, a python of mythical proportions, coiled and struck with a predatory precision that defied its immense bulk. Zola, caught off guard, roared, a guttural cry of pure agony that ripped through the unnatural silence, vibrating in Imani's chest. The python, a living vice, began its lethal constriction, its scales glinting, tightening around the lioness with an inexorable force. Imani's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drum against the encroaching dread. Her training, her life's work, screamed a single, unyielding protocol. Non-interference. This was nature, red in tooth and claw. Yet, watching Zola's desperate struggles, witnessing the slow suffocation of a creature she had sworn to protect, especially one carrying new life, tore at her resolve. Her palms were slick with sweat, her breath hitched in her throat. Zola's plight was dire, her cries weakening, each gasp a testament to her ebbing life force. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm Imani, the ground vibrated again. From the distant acacia line, Kovu, the pride's formidable leader, burst forth, not alone, but with the entire pride fanning out behind him. This was no chaotic charge. This was a unified, strategic assault. Instead of their usual cautious hunting instincts, they moved with an almost tactical precision, a wave of golden fury against the monstrous reptile. They didn't just attack, they coordinated, one lion distracting the python's head, another raking its midsection, while Kovu himself circled, searching for an opening. "I've never seen such coordinated action," Imani whispered, her voice barely audible, a testament to her utter astonishment. Not against something like this. Her scientific understanding of predator dynamics fractured under the weight of what she was witnessing. This was beyond instinct. It was almost intelligent. The pride's relentless, almost intelligent attacks began to take their toll. The serpent, for all its immense power, was being overwhelmed by the sheer calculated ferocity. With a final desperate convulsion, the python loosened its coils, releasing Zola with a heavy thud. It retreated, sliding back into the undergrowth with surprising speed, a dark, silent hunter forced to yield. As the serpent vanished, Imani caught it, a fleeting glint through her lens, an unusual, almost iridescent shimmer on its scales, unlike any natural coloration. It was metallic, sharp, reflecting the dying sunlight. "What was that?" she murmured, her brow furrowed in confusion and a burgeoning dread. It was gone as quickly as it appeared, leaving only a lingering impression of something deeply unnatural. Zola lay weak and gasping, deep lacerations marring her golden hide. Her cries, now soft whimpers, echoed across the savannah as the pride gathered around her, their protective presence a testament to their unwavering loyalty. Kovu nuzzled her gently, his low rumble a mournful song. Imani felt a profound internal conflict raging within her. The glint, the pride's impossible coordination, Zola's injuries. It all coalesced into an undeniable certainty that something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. Intervene and risk everything. Her career, her funding, perhaps even her life, by breaking the ironclad rule of non-interference. Or let nature take its course, knowing in her gut that this was not entirely nature. A quiet presence materialized beside her, Musa, Her elderly guide, his face etched with the wisdom of decades spent on this land, gazed out at the scene below. His eyes, ancient and knowing, met hers. "The land is changing, Imani," he said, his voice a low, gravelly whisper. "Even the serpents." His words resonated with the unease stirring in Imani's soul, confirming her unspoken fears. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in blood orange and deepening the shadows across the savannah, leaving Imani with an agonizing decision. The warmth of the day fled, replaced by the cool, unforgiving embrace of twilight. She took a deep, shuddering breath, her mind made up. "I can't just watch her die, not after what I saw." As if in immediate response, her secure field device buzzed, a stark digital intrusion into the fading natural world. A cryptic message flashed across the screen. "Interference protocol, strictly no animal contact." The night was a torment. Dr. Imani lay on her cot, the canvas walls of her tent offering little solace against the vast, whispering darkness of the savannah. Zola's whimpers, faint but agonizingly clear, carried on the breeze, each sound a fresh wound to Imani's conscience. Even worse, the memory of that metallic glint on the serpent's scales played on an endless loop in her mind's eye, a cold, unnatural flicker in the heart of the wild. Sleep was a distant, impossible dream. Hours bled into one another as Imani rose, switching on a low-powered LED lantern. She meticulously reviewed her field notes, scrolling through the recorded observations of the pride's impossible coordination. The data was unequivocal. Their actions had deviated wildly from established ethological patterns for such an encounter. It wasn't just a successful defense, it was a strategically executed maneuver. "This isn't just nature, Musa," she insisted, her voice tight with conviction as she gestured towards the glowing tablet. The elderly guide sat opposite her, nursing a cup of steaming rooibos tea, his face a canvas of ancient wisdom and deep concern. "Something is off. That python, the way the pride responded." Musa's eyes, heavy with the weight of generations, met hers. He took a slow sip of his tea. "Some lines, Imani," he said, his voice a low rumble, "are not meant to be crossed. Man's ways are not the land's ways." His words carried the weight of a warning, not just for her scientific career, but for something far older, far more spiritual. Ignoring the chill that snaked through her, Imani began to assemble a tranquilizer dart. Her movements were born of years of practice, yet a tremor ran through her hands. Beside the dart gun, she laid out a sterile medical kit, bandages, antiseptic, pain relievers. Each item a testament to the monumental, defiant decision she was making. "If I intervene, my career is over," she murmured, more to herself than to Musa. The words hung heavy in the pre-dawn silence. "But if I don't, I let a mother and her unborn cubs die for a protocol that doesn't account for what I saw." The ethical dilemma was stark, brutal. How could she stand by when her gut screamed that this wasn't a natural event? She remembered the strange, almost iridescent sheen on the serpent. It hadn't been an illusion, and Zola's increasing weakness, her labored breathing, spoke of internal injuries beyond mere constriction trauma. Imani's mind raced, connecting impossible dots. "They'll revoke my permits, my funding." "Maybe worse," she whispered, double-checking the dart's dosage, ensuring it was exactly right for a lioness of Zola's size and condition. The potential repercussions were catastrophic, not just for her, but for her entire research project. Musa watched her, his expression a complex mix of disapproval, deep worry, and a grudging respect. "Your heart is too big for this land, Imani," he finally said, his gaze softening almost imperceptibly. Imani looked up, meeting his eyes, then carefully loaded the dart into the gun. Her hand trembled, but her resolve had hardened into steel. "No, Musa. My heart is for this land, for its creatures, its fragile balance, its silent suffering." As the first sliver of dawn painted the eastern sky in hues of soft blue and rose, Imani took a deep breath, the chill morning air filling her lungs. She picked up her satellite radio, a direct link to the outside world, to the very authorities she was about to defy. She steeled herself for the dangerous approach, for the formidable Kovu, for the desperate, injured Zola. "This is Dr. Imani," she announced, her voice steady despite the adrenaline thrumming through her veins. I'm initiating a high-risk veterinary intervention. Stand by. The only response was silence. A long, deafening silence from the other end. She knew with chilling certainty that she had crossed a line, a point of no return. Her communication might even be cut off. We go now, Musa, she said, picking up her medical bag, its weight suddenly feeling immense. Before it's too late for Zola. Musa nodded slowly, his ancient eyes fixed on the horizon. He picked up his staff, its gnarled wood worn smooth by years of use. The spirits will watch your steps. The morning air, crisp and charged with an almost palpable tension, surrounded Dr. Imani and Musa as they moved slowly, deliberately, towards Zola's pride. Every step was measured, every movement telegraphed, a silent plea for acceptance in the heart of the wild. The other lions watched them from a distance, their eyes unblinking, unreadable, in unnerving stillness to their posture. Kovu, the magnificent male, lay closest to the injured Zola, his massive head resting on his paws. As Imani drew closer, a low, resonant growl rumbled in his chest, a warning rumble that vibrated through the very ground. His golden eyes, filled with a primal protectiveness, were fixed solely on Imani. She held her breath, the tranquilizer dart gun a heavy, reassuring weight in her hands. "It's now or never," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the thrumming of her own pulse. One wrong move, one false step, and this delicate balance would shatter, with potentially fatal consequences. Then, to her profound astonishment, Zola shifted. The injured lioness, her breathing still ragged, slowly lowered her head further onto the earth, exposing her flank. It was an unmistakable gesture, an almost defiant surrender, an invitation. "She trusts you," Musa whispered, a tremor of awe in his voice. His own stoic facade cracked, revealing a deep wonder. This is unheard of. Never in all his years had he witnessed a wild lioness, especially one so severely injured and protective of her unborn cubs, willingly accept the approach of a human. With renewed purpose, Imani carefully aimed and administered the tranquilizer. Zola's powerful body shuddered once, then slowly, gracefully, she drifted into a controlled slumber, her labored breaths evening out. The pride remained still, observing. Imani wasted no time. Kneeling beside Zola, she gently began to clean the deep lacerations, her gloved fingers moving with practiced care. The wounds were worse than she'd initially seen, raw and weeping. As she worked, her fingers brushed against something hard, gritty, embedded deep within the torn flesh. Squinting, she saw it. Tiny metallic fragments, glinting dully against the bloodied tissue. "These aren't natural," Imani muttered, her voice laced with an increasing dread. She reached for her tweezers, carefully extracting a shard, holding it up to the dappled sunlight. It was dark, angular, and impossibly thin. They looked like advanced composites. Not bone, not rock, not any natural element of the savannah. Then, sifting through Zola's matted fur around the injury, she found more evidence. Faint, iridescent traces, a peculiar shimmer that caught the light, clinging to the golden strands. It was the same unnatural glint she'd seen on the serpent's scales as it retreated. Imani quickly pulled out her portable field scanner, a compact device designed for on-site biological analysis. She carefully ran it over the metallic fragments and the iridescent residue. The screen flickered, displaying complex molecular structures, patterns that sent a jolt of ice through your veins, non-organic compounds, synthetics, biomarkers. This python was altered, Imani gasped, the realization hitting her with the force of a physical blow. Her mind raced, connecting the impossible dots. The altered python, the pride's unprecedented coordination, the cryptic message from her base. This is a chilling discovery. It wasn't just an unusual event, it was a deliberate intervention, a terrifying manipulation of the natural world. Her heart pounded, a frantic rhythm of both dread and a searing scientific excitement. This was a conspiracy, not a natural phenomenon. She swiftly collected samples, the metallic shards, swabs of the iridescent residue, even a small sterile clip of Zola's fur where the material had adhered most strongly. Each sample was carefully labeled, sealed, destined for deeper analysis. From a distance, the other lions watched, still calm, still alert. Their behavior, once a source of wonder, now felt deeply unsettling, almost as if they were complicit, or perhaps aware. Imani looked from the sleeping Zola to the silent, watchful pride, then back to the unnatural fragments in her hand. A grim resolve settled over her. This isn't just about Zola anymore, she stated, her voice firm. This is a classified incident. The hot African sun beat down, but a cold chill ran through Imani, settling deep in her bones. The human danger she had mused about, the unseen forces at play, were no longer theoretical. They were here, and she had just stepped right into their path. The moment Imani tried to upload her findings, the photos of the metallic shards, the scanner readings of the biomarkers, her secure field tablet went dark. Not a power failure, but a swift, absolute shutdown of her communication and data transfer protocols. Her primary satellite phone, usually robust, showed no signal. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced through her scientific composure. "My communication lines are dead. They know," she said, the words barely a whisper, frustration quickly boiling into a surge of righteous anger. The immediate, decisive action proved she wasn't just observing an anomaly. She had stumbled onto something powerful, something that didn't want to be seen. Then a low battery alert blinked on her rarely used backup satellite phone, a relic she kept for emergencies. A terse, anonymous message appeared on the screen, devoid of sender identification. "Cease and desist. Your permit is revoked. Return to base immediately." The threat was clear, the message chillingly precise. Musa, who had been quietly observing her frantic attempts, finally spoke. He gestured expansively to the vast, silent land around them. They listened with ears not meant for the Waslet Imani. His words, once an abstract warning, now resonated with tangible menace. Driven by a grim certainty that she was being actively suppressed, Imani discarded the protocol of returning to base. Together they began a covert search of the immediate area, focusing on where the serpent had first ambushed Zola. They moved with the stealth of seasoned hunters, Imani's scientific acumen blending with Musa's generational knowledge of the bush. It wasn't long before Musa, his sharp eyes missing nothing, pointed to a subtle disturbance in the dense foliage near Akopia. Tucked cunningly amongst the thorny branches, almost invisible, was a small camouflage device. Imani carefully uncovered it. A high-definition camera, motion-activated, powered by a discrete solar panel no larger than her hand. It was state-of-the-art, military-grade. "This isn't for anti-poaching," Imani deduced, her voice tight with a growing sense of dread as she examined the camera's sophisticated optics. Anti-poaching efforts typically use larger, more obvious cameras for deterrence. This is for monitoring. Meticulous, constant observation. Their search continued, now infused with an even deeper urgency. Further into the thick bush, they discovered more unsettling evidence. A series of unusual, expertly concealed traps. But these weren't for catching animals whole. These were non-lethal, designed with fine mesh and adhesive strips, clearly intended to collect tiny samples. A wisp of fur, a shed scale, a microscopic epidermal flake. "These aren't hunting traps, Musa," Imani explained, her fingers tracing the intricate design. "These are research traps, but illegal. Operating such equipment within a protected reserve without explicit, high-level authorization was a grave offense, and the clandestine nature suggested something far more sinister than mere unauthorized research." One trap, slightly dislodged, bore a faded, obscure corporate logo on its underside. 3 interlocking diamonds. The symbol meant nothing to Imani, yet its presence confirmed her darkest suspicions. "This is a corporate cover-up," she whispered, the words tasting like an ash in her mouth. Near the traps, they found traces of a peculiar, sweet-smelling bait. It wasn't meat, nor anything naturally occurring. It had an artificial, almost chemical aroma, yet clearly designed to attract large predators with its potency. The pieces slammed into place: the genetically enhanced python, the biomarkers, Zola's unprecedented trust, the pride's coordinated defense, the sophisticated surveillance, the illegal research traps, the corporate logo, the powerful bait, and now the immediate silencing of her communications. It wasn't just an anomaly, it was a deliberate, large-scale operation. They were not just protecting Zola. They were unearthing a forbidden scientific experiment, one operating deep within a protected wildlife sanctuary, with implications that sent a chill down Imani's spine. We need more proof, Imani decided, her determination hardening into a formidable resolve. Her fear was still there, a constant hum, but now overshadowed by a burning need for truth. Proof they can't ignore or bury. Musa's eyes narrowed, fixed on a barely perceptible disturbance in the dry earth. He pointed a gnarled finger. They are here, Imani, the ones who leave these marks. Faint, fresh boot prints, distinct from their own, led deeper into the untouched wilderness. If you're finding this story as unsettling as I am, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to unravel this conspiracy with me. Because what we're about to uncover isn't just a threat to wildlife. It's a chilling glimpse into human ambition run wild, and the danger is now immediate and life-threatening. Imani and Musa moved deeper into the heart of the reserve, their steps careful, their senses heightened. The faint tracks of the overseers led them through dense thickets and over rocky outcrops, each clue a breadcrumb in a trail of escalating dread. The sun beat down, but an invisible chill permeated the air, a premonition of lurking danger. Suddenly Kovu, the magnificent male, appeared from behind a cluster of acacia trees, blocking their path. He didn't growl, didn't posture aggressively. Instead, he met Imani's gaze with an unnerving intensity, then nudged his massive head towards a completely different direction, away from the faint human tracks. He's telling us to go a different way, Imani realized, a jolt of astonished wonder running through her. The lion's intent was unmistakable, a direct communication that defied all conventional understanding of animal behavior. Musa, his weathered face usually a mask of calm, allowed a rare, knowing smile to touch his lips. The land speaks through its creatures, Imani. Always listen. They changed course following Kovu. As if on cue, the rest of the pride emerged from the shadows, fanning out around them, forming a loose but formidable perimeter. They moved with an uncanny coordination, guiding Imani and Musa through treacherous ravines and dense thorny thickets that bypassed the more obvious human patrol routes. It was a silent ballet of protection, a surreal alliance forged in shared danger. They're actively protecting us, Imani whispered, tears pricking at her eyes. The sheer intelligence, the selfless courage, was overwhelming. This is beyond instinct. It was a profound connection, a recognition of a common enemy. The distant, low hum of vehicles reached them, growing steadily louder. The overseers were closing in, their relentless search for Imani intensified now that her communications were dead. The sound was a harsh, mechanical intrusion on the ancient rhythms of the savannah. Zola, now fully recovered from her injuries, agile and alert, suddenly broke away from the pride and led them to a narrow, hidden rock crevice, almost completely obscured by overgrown bushes. It was a natural blind spot, a perfect haven from prying eyes. She remembered this place. She's thinking strategically, Imani marveled, her scientific mind grappling with the undeniable evidence of advanced cognition. The lioness, a creature of pure instinct, was displaying strategic intelligence, leading them to safety. They squeezed into the cramped crevice, the lion settling protectively outside, their bodies forming a living shield. Moments later, a heavily armed vehicle rumbled past, its powerful headlights cutting through the twilight. Imani could hear the whirring of thermal imagers, sweeping the area. The silence of the lions outside was absolute, a silent defiance. As the vehicle's hum faded, Imani whispered to Musa, "They're not just looking for me. They're here for the animals too." The chilling implication was clear. The animals weren't just targets of research, but perhaps victims of a larger, more sinister agenda. Once the immediate danger passed, the pride guided them to a clearing where they discovered an abandoned encampment. It was hastily deserted, but left behind were specialized scientific equipment, strange reinforced cages too small for lions but large enough for pythons, and discarded uniforms bearing the familiar interlocking diamond corporate logo. Amidst the detritus, Imani spotted it, a small, encrypted data chip, half buried in the dust. With trembling fingers, she inserted it into her field tablet, bypassing the security protocols. The screen flickered, revealing file names that sent a fresh wave of horror through her. Project Chimera, bioweaponization, and genetic harmonization. They're experimenting, engineering the wildlife, Imani said, her voice barely a breath, the full, horrifying scope of the conspiracy finally dawning on her. The python was just the beginning. The glint, the biomarkers, Zola's intelligence, the pride's guidance, it all pointed to an unimaginable manipulation of nature. The lions remained watchful, their silent presence a powerful, intelligent shield against the encroaching human darkness, their golden eyes holding a knowledge that transcended mere instinct. If you're finding this story as unsettling as I am, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to unravel this conspiracy with me. Because what we're about to uncover isn't just a threat to wildlife, it's a chilling glimpse into human ambition run wild, and the danger is now immediate and life-threatening. Guided by Zola's unwavering resolve and Kovu's vigilant presence, Imani and Musa were led to a massive rock formation, almost indistinguishable from its surroundings. There, a subtle seam in the rock revealed a cleverly camouflaged entrance, a heavy reinforced door, almost seamlessly blended with the natural environment. This was the heart of it all. They managed to breach the entrance, the heavy door groaning as it yielded. What lay beyond was a chilling contrast to the wild beauty outside, a sophisticated, eerily silent underground lab. The air was sterile, chemical, a stark offense to the senses. Imani's eyes darted around, horror mounting with each discovery. Rows of cages housed animals, not just lions but various species, some mutated with grotesque features, others with strange, pulsing implants visible beneath their skin. The metallic glint on the serpent now made horrifying sense. My God, Project Chimera, Imani breathed, the name from the data chip echoing the grotesque reality before her. This wasn't just research. It was a violation and perversion of life itself. Suddenly, klaxons blared, a piercing shriek that ripped through the lab's false calm. Red emergency lights bathed the stark white walls in a blood-red glow. The overseers, heavily armed and clad in black tactical gear, burst into the main chamber, led by a figure in a pristine lab coat, a tall, gaunt man with eyes as cold as a serpent's. Dr. Thorne. Dr. Imani, Thorne sneered, his voice laced with venomous contempt. You've gone too far. This is classified research. He gestured to his men. Imani, her heart pounding, but her resolve unyielding, held up her satellite phone, its screen glowing with the damning files she had painstakingly compiled. The world needs to know about your genetically enhanced bioweapons, about Project Chimera. Thorne's face contorted in a mask of pure rage. Secure the data. Eliminate loose ends. He roared, his voice echoing in the now chaotic lab. The overseers advanced, their weapons raised. Just as they closed in, a thunderous roar, raw and primal, shook the very foundations of the lab. A weak point in the reinforced wall, perhaps overlooked, perhaps strategically chosen, crumbled inward. Zola and Kovu burst through the breach, their eyes blazing with righteous fury, their massive forms filling the confined space. The lions acted with an uncanny, almost surgical intelligence. They didn't attack the humans directly, but instead targeted critical equipment. Kovu swiped at a console, sending sparks showering. Zola slammed into a rack of expensive machinery, causing it to topple and crash. Chaos erupted. It was a perfect, calculated diversion. They're buying us time, Imani shouted to Musa, her fingers flying across her satellite phone, frantically uploading the final data packets. The connection was tenuous, but the lion's disruption created enough interference to mask her transmission. Musa, his ancient eyes alight with a warrior's fire, proved his worth once more. With surprising agility, he used his gnarled staff to trip and disarm one of the startled guards, snatching his weapon and tossing it aside. The final data packet flashed across Imani's screen. Transmission complete. It was out, sent to multiple global outlets, to whistleblowers, to anyone who would listen. It's out, she cried, a mix of relief and terror. Your corporate cover-up is over. Thorne screamed in impotent rage, his eyes darting between his failing lab and the retreating figures. The lab, compromised and collapsing under the lion's assault, began to shake vehemently. Imani grabbed Musa's arm. Go! Now! They scrambled through the gaping hole the lions had created, the sounds of crumbling concrete and Thorne's furious cries fading behind them. The lions, leading the way, were already out, vanishing into the pre-dawn light. Above ground, under the vast, awakening African sky, Imani watched as Zola and Kovu, followed by the rest of the pride, disappeared into the rising sun. They were the true guardians of the savannah, their incredible sacrifice and intelligence, having saved not only themselves but potentially the entire ecosystem from a dark human conspiracy. The battle was far from over, but the truth was out, carried on the wings of their courage and the roar of the wild. The sun, now fully risen, painted the savannah in hues of gold, casting long, familiar shadows across the endless ocean of grass. Dr. Imani stood, dust-stained and exhausted, watching the retreating forms of Zola and Kovu vanish into the shimmering distance. What began as a desperate rescue, an agonizing choice to break protocol for a pregnant lioness, heavy with the future of her pride, had unveiled a conspiracy that shook the very order of nature itself. The silent assassin of the undergrowth, the colossal python, was not a natural predator, but a grim testament to human ambition run wild, genetically enhanced for a sinister purpose. Imani had walked through the heat of midday, her own muscles tense, burdened by the weight of responsibility, not just for Zola and her fragile cubs, but for an entire ecosystem. She had witnessed unprecedented gratitude, uncanny intelligence, and a unified stand from the magnificent creatures she dedicated her life to. The chilling discovery of Project Chimera, the covert lab, the cold scientist, and the terrifying bioweapons had been exposed. As the sounds of the collapsing lab faded behind her, Imani knew her fight was far from over. But the truth was out, carried by the invisible waves of her transmission, and guarded by the powerful, intelligent hearts of the savannah's true sovereigns. The fragile hope of cubs yet to see the light of day now had a chance, thanks to the courage of a biologist and the wisdom of the wild.